When it comes to hosting your business website, what are your options? How many times have you asked the question, which hosting platform should I really be using? Well, in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the number one, the different types of hosting that there are now, um, the questions that you should be asking yourself about the hosting for your business website, and then my recommendations and hosting I do not recommend. So let's get right into it. So first of all, let's talk about the variety of different types of hosting that there are. And there's many different types of hosting. One of the most common hosting that you'll see is shared hosting. With a shared hosting plan, you're basically sharing it amongst millions, thousands and millions of other different websites. So if you're getting a certain amount of traffic coming to your website, and maybe there could be a particular spike because you're launching something or you're doing something where you know there's going to be a lot of traffic, you're now in there with everybody else, all these other websites. So that's why it's less expensive. But you're not going to be able to get the bandwidth that you might necessarily need or expect because of that shared hosting. Another one is called VPS hosting, virtual private server. It's a little bit more expensive, but you do get a little bit more traffic that will flow to your website. You won't have to worry about it as if you were on a shared plan. It basically kind of mimics having a server dedicated just to your site, hence the virtual. But technically, it's still shared hosting. And in my experience, I haven't really noticed that much of a difference. Now, further down, there is something called dedicated server. A dedicated server is if you're getting a great amount of traffic coming to the site, you're definitely going to want to have a dedicated server plan. And that just means it's your website or your property there on that server, and no, you're not sharing it with anyone else. It's pretty straightforward. A lot of the naming conventions, pretty common sense when it comes down to what these things means. Yeah, it is dedicated to your business. Highly recommend if you have a large e-commerce site where you're getting tons of traffic, that would be a great choice. Now, there is a newer thing on the scene, and that is called cloud hosting. I do recommend cloud hosting. It is one of the newer ones there. I use it myself, and I'll even show you in one of my recommended hosting companies that I use is a cloud. It allows you the ability to use cloud hosting. As your traffic volume grows, the server space expands. What's really great about this is you're only using the space that you need or that you have. You're not paying for anything that you're not actually using. So love the whole cloud hosting. Now let's talk about some of these questions. So the questions that I would definitely think about is how much traffic can you expect to be getting this year? Now again, if you're seeing some increase and spike up in traffic, you really might want to focus your time and attention on what is the best hosting platform that I should be thinking about. So again, if you're getting increasingly large amounts of traffic, you want to avoid the shared for sure. And I would even argue avoid the virtual private server as well. How much hosting support do you need? Do you, and I would say number 2 and number 3, those two questions go together. How much hosting support do I need and what is my budget? So number 1 is if you do not have an internal team or a dedicated developer or someone managing your hosting for you, that is going to be critically important because you could be in the middle of the night dealing with a problem with your hosting and you need to be able to rely on a customer support team that is understanding of your current situation and is fluent in whatever language it is that you're speaking in, and more importantly is understanding of the technology and knows immediately how to solve for that. So these are definitely the questions I've always asked myself and for my clients as well. But support is critically important. If you can get really good support, whatever you're paying every single month is well worth it. Number 2, and number 3, what is your budget? I always say, look, don't be cheap. okay? But at the same time, don't throw money out the window that you could be using in other places of your business too. And when I say don't be cheap, I mean, let's get into it. What I don't recommend, going on the cheap means I'm going to use Wix or Squarespace or maybe even, some other third-party hosting. These are not really great at all from an SEO standpoint. They don't allow for scalability and growth of your business website. That's what you should be thinking of, and that is what should not be shortchanged. You've got to think long term. Don't think in the moment, this is cheap, I'm going to go with this. The others I do not recommend: GoDaddy, Bluehost. Yes, I've had personal experiences with all of these in the last 15 years, and I just don't recommend them. Bluehost, I think, was awesome in 2015 if you have a small little blog, but now, if you're trying to really grow a business of any size, you should really consider another platform. And in terms of, any of the other big shared, HostGator, I mean, they're all out there. They really serve the masses. Unless you are just doing this, it's a hobby and it's a blog, go for it. Otherwise, if you have a serious business that you're generating or expect to generate some serious revenue and wanting to get some traffic, I would not recommend these platforms. Now let's get to what I actually do recommend. And what I do recommend, first and foremost, is Cloudways. Cloudways is one of my websites actually hosted in. This is a cloud hosting platform that is awesome. Their customer support is outstanding. It is very simple and easy to use. They have 5 cloud providers that you can even choose from, and you can even compare them. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Their performance is top notch. So again, can't recommend them enough. Definitely one of my favorites is Cloudways. Next, number 2 on the list is WP Engine. Really great performance. Again, if we're talking about SEO, which I do, we're thinking about the speed in which I can get my site up and then from page to page, how easily accessible are these pages. Anytime I'm doing a migration or anything having to do with the security, those kinds of things, also important, critically important. And WP Engine, their customer support, also outstanding. I've also used them as well. It's a little bit more on the pricier side of things, but they are really outstanding at what they do. Definitely recommend them. And my third choice is definitely WPX. Now, WPX, lesser expensive, and I would say somewhere between, I would put them really between like a GoDaddy and Bluehost, and put them in between that and, let's say, maybe WP Engine. They would kind of fit somewhere in the middle there. I've been a user of theirs for a number of years, and I kind of decided to make the leap and move because I noticed a slight bit of some speed degradation over time. So that's when I moved to Cloudways. So, however, they do have a bunch of different data centers in the US, UK, and Australia. They do have outstanding customer support. I will definitely give them that. They do offer unlimited SSL certificates, which GoDaddy does not. And they have a staging area. They have things that actually matter and that are important. So I would recommend them. They would be my number 3 out of my top 3. So that's it. That's what I wanted to talk with you about today, was just hosting, the answering the question about hosting, and really taking this seriously when it comes to growing your business and having a real good understanding in terms of what it takes to make sure that what it is you're actually using from a hosting standpoint. Now, at the same time, I'm also going to be running tests on Kajabi. So I do have a WordPress site hosted with Cloudways. I also have a Kajabi site that I'm also running a test on to really understand with that blog how it's going to be, what the indexability is from a Google search standpoint. What is the page speed? So this is really sort of like my test case. Rather than throwing out a flippant, no, I would never do it, I would never put my blog on a Kajabi site. Instead, I am making the case to say it could be an option. But right now, I haven't definitively said whether it is a yes or a no that I'd recommend it. But I want you to follow me as I go through, build that site out, build a blog out. I'm going to be running some tests on it. I've got Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and then I'm going to be doing some technical audit and analysis to really kind of prove it out to see whether it really makes sense to actually build a website and a blog on Kajabi. So more on that later. If you have any questions or if you're interested in just getting the basics set up, go to setupyourseo.com. There is just a little mini course for any business owner to get quickly set up. If you have any questions at all, you'll be able to have access to ask me questions on any of those things. I do a live monthly Q&A for all of the members in that group. So setupyourseo.com. I'm Janet Bartoli, and I will talk to you more about SEO in the next one.